Hello everyone! Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you are safe and doing well. I was originally planning on doing like a 10-year alt fashion journey kind of video to celebrate my 10 years of wearing alt fashion. But unfortunately, something unexpected happened last week, or maybe I should have expected it. So, Shein and Romwe have stolen my art for the third time. This is 3 separate times. It has been happening once every single year. So in 2022, and then 2023, and now 2024. The first time it happened, I made a YouTube video talking about it, if you want to check that out. And the second time it happened, I decided to not make a video and just tweet about it. They had copied my AC/DC rag collaboration designs, a design from my brand Candy Trap. They even stole more AC/DC rag designs from Good Fortune by the folks at K Collective, Dead End Kids on Taobao, Gimme Fashion on Etsy, In Control Clothing, and Holly Tea Time. So all of these brands at one go. The funny thing about that time is that 2 months later, AC/DC Rag and I were at Anime Expo in LA. We were invited to be part of the fashion show that was happening. And guess who else was there and had a huge booth? Romwe, who stole our freaking designs. For those who don't know, Romwe is owned by Shein, so they're essentially the same company. And their huge booth thing was in the same building as the fashion show. And when I walked past the booth, the people working there were even asking me to take a picture at the booth while I was staring at the stolen designs hanging on their walls. But this time, the design that they stole is this hoodie I created around when I first started Candy Trap. You can see how they changed the logo in the middle, but it still has flowers, and everything else is pretty much the same. Even the rainbow order on the pocket in the front is the same. Blue in the front, pink in the back, yellow hood with a purple trim at the bottom. And this is a blatant example of copying. There is a huge difference between taking inspiration versus copying. With inspiration, you make something new from it and not just slightly tweak the design in the middle. For example, in my last video talking about Shein, there were some people in the comments accusing me of copying Lisa Frank. And honestly, first off, Lisa Frank does not own rainbows. Let's get that straight. And secondly, I don't really look towards Lisa Frank as a source of inspiration because I didn't really grow up with that stuff. What I grew up with was fruits and Harajuku street fashion snaps, and so that is what I'm inspired by. But even still, none of my designs are a blatant copy of any Lisa Frank designs. So please, let's first understand the difference between copying and inspiration. Thankfully, Shein took down this hoodie as well, but this time they did not contact me. And I guess it's because I didn't respond to their previous DMs, and I didn't think to respond because of legal stuff, but we'll talk more about legal stuff in a second. I never expected to one day have beef with Shein side. That's what Shein used to be called back in the day, like 10 years ago when I first started getting into or wearing alt fashion. Shein was called Shein side, and they would sponsor people's blogs. So on the blog there'd be like they have like a little ad section, and Shein side would be there. But I am just so tired. Why am I still here yapping about the same thing? 2-3 years later? I feel completely numb to this constantly happening every year, and not only just to me. This has happened to countless small artists, businesses, and brands. Ethically Dressed made an entire article listing 40 plus businesses Shein stole designs from, and that's from last year, so I'm not sure if they've updated it since, but every year it is the same exact thing that happens. Someone will message me and let me know, hey, I saw something on Shein that looks very similar to what you've created. So then I go on there, confirm, yes, that is a knockoff of what I've created. And it literally physically hurts me in the heart. Every piece of work that I've created is like my baby. It's like my child. For example, with the hoodie, there are so many just really positive, happy, memorable memories that were made during the creation of that hoodie. And so seeing that just being taken like that, it really hurts a lot. And so, I cry about it on social media, and Shein will see it and they'll message me and they'll be like, they've taken down the product from their site pending an investigation. But then why is it that they keep doing this again and again, even though they apparently take this kind of thing seriously? On their website, it states in big letters, intellectual property notice. As we ask others to respect our intellectual property rights, we respect the intellectual property rights of others. If you believe that material located on or linked to by Shein violates your copyright, trademark, or other intellectual property rights, please submit your complaint through our online intellectual property complaint portal. And then a little lower, it states, copyright announcement. Shein or its affiliates owns all intellectual property and other rights, title, and interest in and to the Shein website and related mobile application, These copyrights and intellectual properties are protected by international and domestic law. So then why is it not okay to steal from Shein, but it's okay for them to do it to others? Especially small artists and businesses who they know do not have the funds or the resources to be able to sue and fight Shein in court. Why can they afford collaborations with Cardcaptor Sakura and Care Bears and Hyuna? Why can they afford to pay Khloe Kardashian, Law Roach, who is a stylist and judge on America's Next Top Model, and Christian Siriano, one of the winners of Project Runway, and a member of the Council of Fashion Designers of America, to be judges on their Shein X 100K challenge show? They even have Shein X, which is meant to showcase new fashion designers, artists, and brands, but yet they can't afford to pay the artists that they steal from. They can't reach out to them or just not steal. Like, I don't understand. Like, what are Shein's priorities? But of course, Shein is a business, so their priorities are profits. They know what sells. Apparently, allegedly, they use some kind of secret AI algorithm to figure that out. With that AI algorithm, they use it to identify trending art and to copy it. And that is part of why those 3 independent artists sued Shein. Shein knows the copyright laws internationally and domestically. That's why it's hard to sue a company if they've stolen your designs and they are overseas, because laws are different in every country. It's not going to be the same laws as if you're both in the same country. They know this, and that's why no one has been able to successfully sue them. If I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong though. Like, even though they've had so many people file lawsuits against them, like Temu has filed a lawsuit against Shein, Uniqlo, H&M, they've all filed lawsuits against Shein. ABC News found at least 53 lawsuits alleging copyright infringement against Shein and its related companies. Most of the cases were settled or dismissed, but over a dozen are still ongoing. And even if they did get sued, I feel like they can afford all the lawyer fees and all the costs that go into that, because guess what Shein's net worth is? $66 billion. Yes, it was $100 billion in 2022, so maybe there is some hope, but for some reason their revenue is still going up every year. The revenue in 2002 was $22.7 billion, and in 2023 it went up to $32 billion. China's richest person might soon be the founder and CEO of Shein. So when they reached the $100 billion valuation, Shein became the world's 3rd most valuable private company after TikTok and SpaceX. Forbes estimates that the net worth of the founder and CEO of Shein is around $11 billion, while Bloomberg gauges it at more than $21 billion. It is so interesting to me how even though the company and the founder's net worth is so high, the people who actually make the clothes make so little. The people who generate that fortune for them can't even afford to buy a house, for example. It sounds like exploiting people for their labor and turning a blind eye to atrocities for the sake of profit. We've heard all of this before. We know that Shein is not some perfect, ethical, sustainable company. And I know that someone in the comments is going to be like, well, you still shop at H&M and Nike, and Forever 21 sucks too. Now, first off, I personally do not shop at those stores. And secondly, Shein is the worst compared to all of the other fast fashion brands that are out there. Shein is not a startup. They've been around since 2008 and have grown so much so that during the same amount of time that Zara offered 35,000 different products for sale, Shein had 1.3 million different products for sale. That is 40 to 50 times as many products. It is a tremendous difference. So we know they're the worst because they roll out the most new garments in a short amount of time. Those garments are full of lead. They do a per item model of pay in their sweatshops instead of per hour or salaried like Zara and other fast fashion retailers. So what can we do now? I feel like we first need to understand why people are dependent on Shein and why they still continue to buy from them, even though countless people have spoken out about how Shein has stolen art and work from them, and that is because of many societal issues. Why can't people afford to buy appropriately priced clothing? One reason is income inequality. In the United States, the income gap between the rich and everyone else has been growing markedly by every major statistical measure for more than 30 years. The problem isn't most clothes are expensive, because the people who make these clothes need to make a living too. They have bills to pay too, and they deserve to be paid appropriately for their labor. Like, making clothes is not as easy as it seems. Like, I know people who say, well, just sew your own clothes, that'll solve everything, but sewing can be quite a challenge to get into. Like, believe me, I've tried. I got a sewing machine for my birthday, and I still haven't been able to sew anything because I've been having problems, like trouble trying to figure out the thread and stuff, but yeah, there's a lot of time that goes into it, and the materials you need can end up being more expensive than just buying a garment that's already made. For example, if a dress takes 10 hours to make and the laborers are being $10 an hour for their work, notably still not a living wage, then the dress is already worth $100 in labor alone. You then factor in the cost of materials, designing the garment, translating it into a pattern, any value-added services such as embroidery or prints, the testing process, etc. There is a lot that goes into making clothes that I really, really wish that they teach these things in schools. Like, I never really understood all of this until I started my own brand, and it really opened my eyes and changed my perspective about the fashion industry so much. Another fashion industry issue is, why is it so hard for people to find clothing, let alone cute clothing, larger than an L or an XL? I really don't understand this, because a majority of American women wear a size 14 or above, which is considered plus size or curvy in the fashion industry, and they are spending more than ever, but yet the plus size market is treated as an afterthought. This ends up leading to Shein becoming a weak band-aid for so many serious problems that exist in our world, and that's why we need to band together to fight these issues in the fashion industry and society. The problem isn't clothes are expensive, the problem is we are not being paid enough. We need to direct the blame and anger towards the right thing, and not small artists and businesses for not having copyrights and patents in the first place. Because even without all that, shouldn't Shein as a huge business know that stealing isn't right? And there have even been people who have copyrights and patents in place, but bigger brands still steals their work and gets away with it. So what's the point of the copyrights, trademarks, and patents? All that stuff is honestly really complicated, and it makes it even more complicated having to deal with international intellectual property trademark stuff. Personally, I never thought of copywriting or trademarking my designs because I felt like they weren't even good enough for that. In my head, I thought that no one would ever do something like that, especially since my brand is very, very niche, like bright rainbow colors, Not a lot of people are into that sort of stuff, and I'm not some big brand. It's literally just me alone running everything. But I've definitely learned from this, and I'm gonna try to talk to some like business owner friends of mine and looking into what I can do legally. But if anybody has any information on what I can do right now for what has already happened or what might happen again in the future, who knows, I'd really appreciate any advice, so please let me know down below if you know anything. You would think that since Shein has so much money that they would just pay someone to make original designs, but they would rather just steal from people who they know can't fight back, and it's honestly really sad. But if you're thinking of starting your own fashion brand, please learn from what I've been through and look into how you can protect yourself and your work. People think that starting your own fashion brand is just being a silly little fashion designer, like, haha, let me draw silly thing and people give me money for silly thing, but there's a lot that goes into it, like legal stuff. Another thing that we need to change is our relationship with fashion and clothing. I think it's important to slowly build your wardrobe cater to your own taste that is timeless, so quality over quantity. Even with a style like Decora that values quantity, we have to not look at clothes as just something that's disposable. We need to love our clothes. Loving our clothes is also learning simple mending. Sewing an entire outfit can be tough, but simple mending is not so bad. There are great video tutorials if you like to watch demonstrations, and blog tutorials if you like reading instead. That way the clothes you own and love can last a long time and you don't have to keep buying new clothes all the time. Loving your clothes is also trying to just at least learn how your clothes are made. There are lots of YouTube videos, documentaries, books, etc. I follow Clothes Horse Podcast on Instagram, and they've got lots of really helpful information. That way we can understand the fashion industry a little bit better, and knowledge is power. Like I talked earlier about what goes into making clothes and why they can be pricey, we in the alt fashion community need to learn why small businesses and niche brands are pricier than other more mainstream and bigger brands, and why they can't compete price-wise. Number 1, unlike larger corporations which can produce goods and services in massive quantities, small businesses often face higher per unit production costs due to their limited scale of operations. With smaller production volumes, fixed costs like rent, utilities, and machinery are spread over fewer units, making each item more expensive. Number 2, small businesses often prioritize quality over quantity. So of course, materials end up being more expensive because of the higher quality and attention to detail. Number 3, many small businesses cater to niche markets, providing specialized products or services that aren't readily available in mass-produced offerings. While this uniqueness can be a selling point, it can also mean that suppliers or skilled professionals are scarce and come at a premium, driving up the overall cost of operations. TLDR, these products are unique and there are less people buying them, so it ends up being more expensive. Number 4, when you are an employee, your employer takes taxes out of your paycheck. When you are an independent contractor or small business owner, you have to pay all taxes yourself. Paying self-employment tax on top of income tax can add up. There's also the full cost of healthcare, disability coverage, and retirement savings. Corporations and nonprofits can make deals with insurance companies to reduce costs based on the number of employees seeking coverage. After making the switch from an employee to a small business owner, your healthcare costs may double or even triple, while your actual benefits decrease. Number 5, costs of marketing, paid sick days, outreach, social media, graphic design, and more. A small business owner either has to be jack of all trades or make enough income to hire employees or contractors, and in reality, as little as 10 to 15% of what you are paying for goods or services might end up as actual income in a small business owner's pocket. Even then, they still have rent, utilities, groceries, and car insurance payments just like you. So yeah, those are just some reasons, and we also need to remember the roots of alt fashion, which is the opposite of mainstream commercial fashion. Alt fashion has roots in altering and DIYing your own clothes, shopping at thrift and vintage shops, and independently owned businesses such as the boutiques found in artistic districts of large urban centers. For example, how Harajuku used to be like back in the day. As some alternative fashion have become increasingly embraced by the mainstream, these types of small specialized retailers have sadly become displaced. A family member of mine has this theory that Shein has been stealing my art and other people's art on purpose as like a sort of marketing scheme so that they'll talk about it. And I originally thought, you know, whether I should make this video or not, because why give them more attention or publicity, I guess. But honestly, this conversation needs to be had. We need to nip this in the bud. Change really needs to happen, and it starts with all of us. Otherwise, it's just gonna be an endless cycle. And so what are more ways that we as individuals can make change? We can make change with our wallets. We can hurt their pockets since that's what's so important to them. We need to not give them money, not give them any attention. Just don't think about them at all, like, goodbye, Shein. And we really need to work as a community through trading clothes, having swap meets with friends, sharing DIY tips with each other, remaking and upcycling what we already have. Like, you know, it can be such a fun, cute little friend hangout idea. The 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, apply to clothes too. And I highly, highly recommend buying secondhand clothes. The world already has so many clothes out there, and you can find these, of course, at thrift shops, but if you're like me and you're not able to leave the house much, online secondhand shopping is great. There's eBay, Poshmark, Vinted, Mercari. I've heard of some alternative plus-size specialty online stores as well. And I'll link more places down below, as well as this where to shop Google Doc spreadsheet that has hundreds of brands that have been vetted that sell clothes that are meant to last, look good, and make you feel amazing. Plus, it is size inclusive, it has a wide range of price points, and it's available worldwide. But please comment down below your favorite places to buy affordable clothing that has a good size range. Let us all help each other out. And lastly, we need to raise awareness about this issue. If you see a friend or family member wearing Shein, just let them know, hey, that brand is not so great, but here are some alternatives you could try. Even if they're overseas, because Shein is trying to branch out to many countries, they are focused mainly on the overseas market, and I read that virtually none of Shein sales are in China. If you've seen my video on Shein opening a permanent location in Harajuku, that is one example. So if you see your favorite idol endorsing Shein or modeling for them, maybe politely and calmly letting them know that that's not the best brand to work with and why. And at the end of the day, you and I and all of us, we are just trying to learn and figure things out as we go. I understand that everyone has different circumstances for the certain things that they do, like buying from Shein, so I can never judge anyone for that. I understand that every country has their own set of issues and problems with access to clothing. My only hope is that there is more understanding and awareness now. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. Please take care of each other, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.